Welcome to another edition of What Saith the Scriptures. And this is Harley Howard. Again, it's a privilege always to be with you as we go verse by verse through the Bible. We're currently in the book of Isaiah. We're at chapter 40, and we're only going to get again to verse 20. I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not in any hurry to get through any particular book. This is something that I think is pretty demonstrated that it takes a lifetime to do, especially as a pastor. You have nothing else more important to do, so you might as well go through the Bible. We're looking at, of course, the comfort of God to Judah, and you may ask yourself, well, it doesn't look too comfortable based upon what you're saying. The remnant, again, another time, another remnant was being rescued from the Assyrians in particular, and others as well. And God again gets to the heart of the issue with Israel's main problem, and that is they don't really believe who he is and what he says, although he demonstrated clearly that he is the true and living God. He's the only God. Israel had this habit of having a stiff neck, an evil and unbelieving heart, and they demonstrated such by dismissing who God is, what God said, his spokesman that he had placed over them. They just completely went towards idolatry, just like the heathens that they were surrounded by and also that they were involved with in Egypt. And I said that you could take Israel out of Egypt, but you couldn't take Egypt out of Israel. And probably the book of Exodus is a clear example of that. We looked at chapter 32 last time. I want to go back to chapter 32 and begin at verse 15. Want to see once again that Israel's main problem is they just didn't believe God. And I don't mean just didn't believe him as opposed to believing him sometimes and not believing him at other times. No, they were unbelievers. And we saw that this morning, and we have seen this time and time again. And I think a lot of people are very confused when they think that God's redemption and deliverance of Israel was salvific. That's not true. And people need to read the whole Bible, and then you'll have no other choice. We saw it in Hebrews earlier today. We've seen it in Romans. We've seen it in Galatians. It's all there. And yet, for some reason, well, because we don't really study the way we should, we have wrong views about Israel to the point where you have Hagee and others teaching false doctrine. And I've heard others in the evangelical industrial complex throughout the years teach the false doctrine that because they were redeemed from Egypt, that they were saved. No, they were saved from Egyptian bondage, but there was no covenant made to them until they got across that Red Sea, and they were obligated to obey the covenant that God made with them, and they said they would, and they did, then God judged them for it. It's that simple. And again, unless you know your Bible, you're going to come up with a lot of false teaching. Most of the false teaching I've noticed in the church are began between the ears of each individual. A lot of false teaching they believe and won't come out and say it. They could sit in church and agree with you, but in their own mind and hearts, they're just as unbelieving and they think that because they attend the service and they agree with the service that that's supposed to mean something. Yeah, it means something if you are truly saved. It means absolutely nothing if you're not. Verse 15, and Moses turned and went down from the mount. He's on Mount Sinai. And the two tables of the testimony were in his hand. These were the 10 commandments that were written in stone with the finger of God, written on both sides, and one side on the other were they written. And the tables were the work of God. And the writings was the writing of God graven upon the tables. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. He thought that somebody was attacking the people, and that all the shouting and the yelling was a cry that they were being in trouble, that they were being overcome by an enemy, which is the word for mastery in verse 18. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. So rather than hearing the shout of victory or defeat, as they get closer and closer, they begin to hear people singing and not shouting for being under any bondage by an army, which gives you the idea of the wild and looseness of what was going on. Verse 19, and it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. So he took the tablets that were written by the finger of God and just threw them down. So when they come into the camp, of course, the people are in their wild frenzy of dancing and immorality. That's what they were. That's what they were doing. Eat and drink and rose up to play, as I said, is not a description of the church picnic. It is a description of wild frenzy of dancing and immorality. And Moses' anger and God's anger were equal in that they were both hot. As the text says, they were hot. And he threw the tables from him and broke them. And of course, the breaking of the tables symbolized the people's breaking of the covenant with God. It obviously was, because they didn't care for it. If they did, they would have waited for Moses. Verse 20, and he took the calf which they had made and burnt it in the fire. Now that's interesting, because it was formed in the fire. Aaron took an engraving tool and created this golden calf, and I still think it's more than one. It might be one huge calf with other calves surrounding it, because again, it uses the plural, as we saw last time about it. But he took the calf, and then he burnt it, he melted it, and then he ground it to powder. Then he threw it upon the water and made the children of Israel to drink it. A lot of people, they don't like it when leadership does things that they deem they're not supposed to do. I don't see any complaint from heaven. I don't see any complaint from God. I don't see any complaint from the angels about what Moses did. He burnt the calf, smashed it into pieces, threw them in the water or the streams which God had made for them out of the rock, and then made the people drink of it, which of course the people bore the consequence of their own sinning. And the point, of course, of all of this idolatry, and this is important, was that it was not and is not a minor issue with God, because God forbade them for doing it. This is the first commandment he gave them. I'm the Lord your God that delivers you out of the hands of the Egyptians. You shall have no other God before me. It is and was a renunciation of his nature, of his character, of his power, and of the fact that he's the only God and the only creator. And the fact that he is distinguishes him from his entire creation, which again, I think that the word faith cult is so damnable that you have these blithering, crowning jewels of ignorance going around claiming that they can speak things into existence. That is an attribute that only God holds. And for some morons to go around thinking they could do that is blasphemy. You are definitely demonstrating you don't know the Lord at all. Because the fact that God is the living God, the true God, and the creator, all through scripture, signifies to everybody that these attributes distinguishes him from his entire creation. You don't have any power to speak anything into existence. And the fact that you believe that just proves that you're an idolater. Well, who are you worshiping? Well, you're worshiping the devil, to be sure, and you're worshiping yourself, and you're worshiping the fools that taught you that lie. Either way, it's not a good thing for you. Back to Isaiah 40. It's not a good thing at all. As we get closer to the coming of the Lord, it's not surprising to me to see the rise in idolatry. It's not at all. Now, if you had to ask me back in the 70s, I always go back to my beginning origins, because the origins always tell me along this route of 51 years what has happened. I'm not somebody that forgets where I began and remember as best I can the things that have happened along the way. The church was in a different frame of mind back in the 70s. The church would not tolerate anybody claiming to be a god. That person would find a right foot of fellowship up there behind about 5 seconds. They wouldn't dare say anything like that, not openly, not publicly. Much of the false teaching, which was clearly distinguishable in that day, began to be subtle. I was watching when the so-called Baptist churches in the area up north, and I see it happening and have seen it happen more and more places, began to eliminate services. I was accustomed, and not only was I accustomed, but looking forward to going to at least 2 and possibly 3 services a day, no less than 2. And we were always visiting somebody, whether it was a local gathering or whether we were going out of town. And I found that to be quite refreshing. New convert, getting familiar with stuff going on, always in the observation mode, didn't hang around the Utes because they didn't know anything. And I was hanging around some of the older people and primarily just watching. Observation was key for me, and then you get to see what you need to see. It was something that was definitely part of my military background. So it really enhanced spiritually, which I considered the greater. And I began to observe more and listen to more people and see where they were at in their head and their hearts. And so you fast forward to the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, and we're toast. False teaching is almost normal within the framework of the professed church today. And one of the reasons was and is, and again, it's because people don't get it, that unless you have a understanding of the whole of this, you don't have an understanding of the parts of this. It's stupid. I want to say it. I want to be very clear. I mean, I don't know how clear I can get, except jumping up and down. But I want to say this without any fear of contradiction, and I don't care about your response to me. You have got to be the dumbest person on 2 feet to think that you can understand this book, the Bible, by not trying to understand the whole and thinking that understanding bits and pieces and kibble is equivalent to knowing the whole. You're the biggest moron on the planet. And you want to tell me that you know something about false doctrine? You're a walking epitome of false doctrine because you don't know anything about the doctrine, which is characteristic of everybody that's false. They don't know it. It's incredible how we don't see this, but I have observed this for half a century. I'm not going to act like I didn't see it, and I'm not going to act like I didn't say I told you so. I've been telling you forever, but of course you don't listen. You don't listen, now you're going to suffer. Ridiculous. The church is stupid. And she sits there in her pride and pomposity and arrogance and self-sufficiency. And preachers say week after week, month after month, you're not following this Bible. And then they got to worry about finding another pastor because the bunch of hellions and fake professing whatevers, they don't believe God. They don't want people to come and tell them the truth. I've seen that in the 80s transition over to the 90s, when when you wanted to hear truth, there were certain people that you went to listen to and you wanted to hear, and there were others you want nothing to do with. Now it doesn't matter. Just play the music louder. And that was another factor in the degradation of the church, is all of this emphasis on music and emotion. And, first it was choirs. You see the choirs, once they start looking at music contracts and doing records, they automatically and they can deny it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if you deny it or not. I'll tell you what I know. I'm telling you what you know. You just don't want to see it. What they did was they had to get involved with money. The minute you start focusing your whatever on cash, you're already going down the pike. It's just a matter of time. And then money, and then contracts, record deals. And I've said many times, having witnessed this, you don't believe it, big deal. Who you link up to is going to determine how far and if your ministry has a ghost of a chance. I warn people, you don't get involved with unbelievers in business. You just don't do it. I've been warning people, and I'm tired. And I've already declared publicly I'm not going to do it anymore. Y'all are too grown, and you don't listen to ever-reducing preacher. Fine. Goodbye and have fun. I kept telling you, don't get monetized by anybody. The minute you sign a contract to be monetized by any group, you give up it's on the contract. You give up your rights to be able to say whatever it is you want to say. And a lot of preachers have bit the dust because they had that money. They got caught up in the money. Record albums become big things, and then all of a sudden you have to exalt yourself, promote yourself, all that's part of the world. All that's part of what they do to get that money. Everyone was trying to make a buck. The bigger churches, let's get bigger. Let's not talk about Bible. Let's have Bible Light or Bible None or New Bible, or let's have multiple services. We have different groups come in. We have the old fogies, 2 toes in the grave in the morning service. Then we have the hellions come in the afternoon service, and the whatever you want to be in the evening service, and it's just all crazy stuff. So they started eliminating the traditional services and times, what have you. So it went from 2 definite programs and a 3 o'clock program down to 2 programs and rare 3 o'clock. Then went down to 1 morning service and no 3 o'clock program and no evening program. And now you find a lot of those places don't even have Sunday school or any teaching. It's just, let's go get this guilt over with so I can get back to what I want to do. And that's where people are today. And so the few of us, and it is few, it's not the many, I'm not going to lie about that, who hold true and who are going to keep holding this until the end, as we said earlier today, holding on to the Bible and all that it says, we're an anachronism. Anachronism, for those who don't bother with the dictionary, means you're basically out of phase with everybody else. You're out of sync. I've always said I was, the definition is you're born in a different area, different age. Your mentality about life is different than it is now. What's a stupid statement that ever was one? My attitude and understanding of what's happening now is enhanced because of my experience, not to be ignored. But that's the way young people have been trained, not to pay any attention to people who have had the experience. About the dumbest thing in the universe is to tell generations of people that people who lived before you don't know more than you because you got a stupid iPhone. Ignorant bunch of morons. And that's where the church is. God help the pastor who is in a church, which is so rare a day nowadays, where the people really want to hear from God for the right reason, not out of desperation, not because they're scared of liberalism, they're scared of, communism and socialism, because you want to hear from God. The fact is, in the environments that the New Testament writes up there in far worse conditions than we were. Much of the punishment and court charges, or should I say legal charges, religiously against the people were against the church. The church was the biggest group of being persecuted. So we're not today. We're the biggest bunch of dodo birds on the planet because we don't know our history. We don't know it. We create our own history. We create our own teaching. And oh yeah, the glue that holds all this poison together is your dumb feelings. It's your emotions. Everybody's a basket case today. Nobody can talk about anybody's feeling. Whatever. Verse 18, Isaiah 40. To whom then will you liken God, or what likeness will you compare unto him? The work, and the answer, of course, is negative for both. The workman melted a graven image, and the goldsmith spread it over gold and casted silver chains. He that is so impoverished that he cannot, hath no oblation or offering, chooseth the tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved. So we already seen examples of the rich, and the elaborate idols, of course, that were so large had to be carried on men's shoulders and put on some kind of a platform, mounted on some pedestal or something when it arrived in the home. And offerings were made to the idol, whatever. Now when I look at the person or persons who could not afford the gaudy idols, but were still able to make one out of wood or stone or whatever. If you want to be an idolater, your ability to be one is not determined upon your financial status. You can still be an idolater. It's interesting because years ago, when people quoted from Timothy, or quoted from Paul to Timothy, the love of money is root of all evil, and people like to stop there. Well, I want you to think very carefully about the simplicity of what Paul is saying. He's not saying that the rich people are the ones he's talking to, although they're included, but he's saying this. He says, for the love of money is root of all evil, while some covet it after. They've coveted after wealth. It means they didn't have it. They are coveting after wealth. Who are the most likely people to be coveting after wealth? The ones who aren't wealthy, the ones who don't have it. That's why you see the madness in our society, especially with Negroes acting a fool, wanting to do stuff, wanting to get stuff for nothing. Never in my life have I seen a race that has so much wealth. The leaders and the prominent people among the Negro race at this point have more wealth than they know what to do with it. And what happens? They got to deal with the rest of us. It's incredible how we don't want to face the facts. We just don't. Well, too bad. The facts are the facts. But this coveting after, it's not the money. And so we forget that because we like to forget things that convict us. And he says, while some coveted after, they have denied the faith. There you go. So we're telling imbeciles, creating entire denominations which say you can covet after wealth and you're a Christian. And the Bible says those who covet after wealth have already denied the faith. That word deny means exactly that. It doesn't mean they're backslidden. It means they don't have it. They say goodbye to it. The danger of wealth, of loving money. Jesus talked about it. Everybody talks about it. But no one believes it, especially in America, when I said for the millionth time at the foundation of our alleged Christianity is covetousness and money and wealth. We have a wealthy Jesus. We have a wealthy faith. We're the only country I know on the planet that has a Christian faith based on the exact opposite of what Jesus said, based on the exact opposite of what the true believers around the world are demonstrating. And we're proud of it. We're so proud, we actually think that we have Christianity in this country based upon wealth. For the love of money is root of all evil, while some coveted after have denied the faith. Okay? They denied it. Worse than infidels. We denied the faith. It's not an enhancement of our faith, it is a literal denial of it. It's in that book called the Bible. Now, it didn't matter about your financial status with Israel or the nations that were practicing idolatry. And, one of the most ridiculous illustrations, which actually is going to come in chapter 44, but I want to read it now and give limited commentary. One of the most ridiculous illustrations that was common among idolaters that the prophets wrote about is in chapter 44 in Isaiah. And again, I want to read it with limited commentary because, Lord willing, when we get there eventually, we're going to study it in greater detail. But look at verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I mean, all those titles. That's all God had to say to Israel, and they understood them all. He's the Lord, King of Israel, and the Redeemer of the Lord, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. He's the Redeemer of Israel. Then he says what? The first thing again that he says brings it right back to the first commandment he gave them. I am the Lord. I am the first, rather. I am the last, and beside me there is no God. I'm the first and the last. Yeah, exactly what's said in Revelation about Christ. I'm the first and the last. And beside me there is no God, little or otherwise. No idols, no word faith heretics, no Copelandism, Haganism, and these other cult knuckleheads claiming to be gods. And a lot about ready to bite the bullet. Come, they can't heal themselves. I didn't know God could die. Anyway, and who, as I, shall call and shall declare it. Who is it that you think is a God that can call and declare things and they happen? Who? I've always purposely and publicly mocked the word faith cult and those who keep claiming that they have the ability to speak things into existence. I said, well, why don't you speak money because you keep begging for it? Okay. And why don't you speak, we can speak health to our life. Well, you're getting older. Why you have birthdays? Why are people that believe like you believe dying? And I just challenge them, if you have power to do that, and I'm such an annoyance to you, well, you got power, speak me out of existence. And on Nightlight, I just waited like 20 seconds. I just wanted to see what people would say. Maybe, I was going to do like a fake fall, but I figured, that wouldn't work. I said, oh, it didn't work, did it? Oh, man, my staff almost lost their minds that night. It was funny because they don't have any power. And who, as I, shall call and shall declare it and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people and the things that are coming and shall come, let them show unto them. Yeah, I already set everything in order that's going to happen. See, when things happen in the future, God's not doing them right then as if he had no plan. God is not, listen to me, God is not living in the present like us, where things happen and he's moving in the same time and space that we are, waiting for things to happen before he does what he does. No, God's already done it. It's done. He said, I appoint the ancient people and the things that are coming and shall come. Who's that like me that's already done it? Show yourself. God's not waiting for us. Fear ye not, verse 8. Neither be afraid. Have I not told you from that time and have declared, haven't I already told you these things, Israel? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God beside me? He's saying, you're a witness to the fact there are no gods. You, of all people. Is there a God beside me? Yea, there is no God. I know not any. God said, there is no other God, and I don't know any other God. So those who call themselves gods are in open opposition to the true and living God. You are damned. You are damned. They that make a graven image are all of them vanity. The ones that make the images are as worthless as the image itself. Wow, we don't believe it, don't care. And their delectable things shall not profit. And they are their own witnesses. They see not nor know that they may be ashamed. In other words, you got an idol and it's all beautiful and what have you. God says that's not going to help you. They are your own witnesses. They testify against you because they don't see, they don't know, and you're going to be ashamed that you follow stupid idols because you're following a non-God. Who hath formed a god or a molten graven image that is profitable for nothing? Who? What person has made an idol that was beneficial to them? That was profitable for anything? Who? Where? When? Who formed the god or a molten graven image that is profitable? The answer is it deserves a no answer. Nobody. It's never. Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen they are of men. If a man makes a god, that should tell you right there that it's not a god. If a man has to make it, let them all be gathered together. Let them stand up. Yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. Let all the idol makers stand together in one group. All over the world, and stand before me, and I'm going to make them all ashamed. I'm going to show them who I am. He says, the smith or the worker, the smith with the tongues both worketh in the coals, and he fashioneth with hammers and worketh it with the strength of his arms. He's down there, the blacksmith. You've seen pictures of blacksmith, at least with horseshoes, and this guy's banging. He's making stuff. He's showing big muscles and everything, and he's just going to hammers and worketh strength of his arms. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh the water and is faint. So he's tired. Oh, he's been making this idol, and he's exhausted. He's hungry. Says his strength faileth. He has no more energy because he's been working and he's been in that just working and in that fire and everything, and his strength is gone. He has no water. He's about ready to pass out. The carpenter stretches out his rule, so he measures with a line, like we would do a tape measure. He fitteth it with planes, and he marketh out with the compass, and maketh it after the figure of a man. So he makes the idol into a figure of a person. Okay. According to the beauty of a man, that may remain in his house. So he has a beautiful idol. Beautiful. Beautiful. Maybe it looks like him. I don't know. But it's beautiful. He heweth him down cedars. Now he's working on an idol of wood. He heweth down cedars, taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengtheneth for himself. Among the trees of the forest, he planteth an ash, and rain doth nurse it. So he used the best of the trees. You're not getting balsa wood and twigs. You're getting the best of the best wood he can get. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he will take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth it and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god and worshipeth it, and he maketh it a graven image and fall down there. Now think about this. He's making an idol of wood, yet he burns part of the wood to warm himself from the same stock. Okay, so he kindles another part of the same stock used to make an idol to make his food, bacon bread. Okay, Yea, he maketh a god, he worshipeth it, he maketh it a graven image and fall down there too. So he's burning part of the idol, the stock of the idol. He uses the wood for the idol, and he burn a part therefore in the fire, there in the fire, but part of it he eateth flesh. No, he roasts his roast. He cooks his food and is satisfied. He goes, man, I'm warm now. And yeah, I am warm. I see the fire from the same stock that he used to make a god. And the residue thereof he maketh a god. He's wait a minute. He's making a god from the residue, the ashes of the fire that he used to warm himself and baketh his bread and roasteth his roast. He takes the ashes and he makes a god of it. Now, let me stop here. A lot of people would just laugh at the utter stupidity of what this man is doing, not really realizing that they themselves are idolaters. They're so busy looking at the object of idolatry. They say, well, this guy's worshiping ashes. He's stupid. Who do you worship? If you're not worshiping the true and living God, you're really worshiping you. You're no different than this guy. He builds a God out of whatever that he basically uses to worship himself, because that's what Paul said, okay, in the New Testament. But you dismiss it because you think it's the ashes, it's the foolishness. But you forgot the object is not the real point. Although in this case, it just shows the stupidity and the futility and the senselessness of a person who would make an idol. But how many of you are idolaters? How many of you are covetous? You see, you look at the object, you see ashes, you see stupidity. You don't see clothes and jewelry and an abundance of things that you possess as idolatry because they have value to you, but it's the same thing. If you're not following Christ and this man's worshiping an idol and you're following whatever it is you follow, claiming to be a God, which it is not because not true and living God, you're no better than this guy worship. In fact, you're dumber than he is because you can look at him and go, man, that's stupid. He's worshiping ashes. Well, by that you judge yourself because you're saying that I'm smarter than him, yet you worship the junk that you get all the time. Your eyes are glued to the TV, and the minute something comes, yeah, I just need that 87th dress or 97th pair of shoes or 18th car. Why? No one asks why. They don't care. And the residue thereof, verse 17, maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and said, deliver me, for thou art my God. This man made an idol of wood, and the residue of what was left, he used it to warm himself, bake his bread, and roast his roast, take the ashes, bring it before the idol that he made, and worship it all. And says, you are my God, deliver me. They have not known nor understood, for he hath shut their eyes. Stop it, stop. That's what God does with people who worship idols. He says, they have not known nor understood, for he has shut their eyes that they cannot see, and their hearts that they cannot understand. They can't understand the foolishness of this man that will worship ashes any more than they have the ability to see and to understand the person our age that gets an abundance of things they don't need just for the purpose of having them. Same idolatry. Object is irrelevant. The point is, look at who blinded them. Like I said earlier, the person who has abundance can look at the person who's worshiping ashes and talk about how stupid that person is, just condemning themselves for doing the same thing. Just the object of their idolatry is no different. It's the same thing. God hath blinded his eyes. He shut his eyes. He cannot see. His hearts, they cannot understand, they have no ability to know. And none considereth in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, this is what you should have said if you had understanding. I have burned part of it in the fire. Yea, also I have baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? How absurd is that? This man didn't lay at the heart of the absurdity of his actions. You know why? Because God blinded him because of his actions. He sees the work of his own hands in that he cut the trees, protected himself, and also cooked his food and warmed himself, and then would make an idol of that which he by his own hands used to help himself. What kind of sense is that? And then ask the same useless stump and ashes to deliver him. If the trees were a god, then why did they not provide for the man all that his hands created? If the tree was a god, why didn't it warm his food, or fill his belly, or satisfy his hunger, or provide for him the things that he needed? If it were a god, why didn't he get these things from his god? Because it's not a god. Why did he have to go around and cut wood from the same stock of the idol that he made and warm himself, cook his own bread, and cook his own meat? Why? If he's a god, why couldn't he do it? Because he's not a god. Again, if the trees were a god, why didn't they provide for the man all that his hands created? What did he need? Shall I now bow down to this lifeless stump of wood? It would have made no sense, but this is idolatry. It's completely senseless. You're not thinking when you're an idolater. You can't think. So someone makes fun of the man who's worshiping an ash. Yet in our age, we have idolatry all over the place. This man makes an image of an idol from wood. We in the professed church worship living idols of feet of clay and then act like we don't do it. And then when they fall, because they are man, then what do? We got to defend the fool. We defend our own fools, defending them who God commanded not to worship. And we've been worshiping them, and we can call it reverence. I don't care what you call it, friends. It's idolatry. And your pride won't let you accept it. And when they fall, you look like a fool because you are. And I didn't have to tell you. The word should have told you. All this talk about reverence. You need to be talking about what this Bible says, that the church says, that the examples of the apostles did. Not a single apostle ever had this issue of people worshiping them like we do today with these fake leaders. They're not supposed to be leading anything but their churches. If they don't have a church, I don't know who they lead. Don't come by here. In every church I spoke at throughout the years, especially when I was asked to come speak to churches in the South and even up north, for the last time I imagined they want me back there. I always made it clear at the opening that I'm not here to add anything anymore to what I hope you already received. You received the teaching of the scriptures. I'm not going to add anything anymore to that which you already have. And then I'm here to support the ongoing work of your pastor or pastors. And if I can, I wouldn't be here. They already know he ain't coming here with the hoodoo-dee-doo. No, he's saying, I'm here to help support your existing work. To that, you should be thankful. And I said, I don't bring any power or whatever with me from anywhere. All that is fantasy nonsense. I'm just a man. That's it. Open your Bible to fill in the blank. Let's get cracking. Verse 20, he feedeth on ashes, a deceived heart hath turned him aside that he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, is there not a lie in my right hand? So part of the ashes become his God. His heart totally deceived about his true condition and blindness has no capacity to rescue him from his dilemma, nor direct him to say the obvious that the work of his hands, that is the idol that he clutches, this ash, is a lie, is a deceit, a falsehood on my own doing. I mean, I'm deceiving myself. He doesn't even see that the building of an idol is self-deception. And God will blind you that you do that. Wow. To say, what kind of God is this? What kind of God is this? I'm going to take time today to talk about the people that somehow in Jeremiah chapter 10 in particular, they want to talk about the Christmas tree. I hear this stuff all the time, and it never ceased to amaze me. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. I got like 9 minutes. You say, well, you're the one preach. You can take whatever time you want. No, I have limits to myself too. Because one thing is, with this stuff being broadcast, I limit it to that, so people get bold or crazy enough to promote it. At least we have an hour, we have a half hour, we have what we could do, break this stuff down. More worthless than the idols, of course, are the ones who created them. For how could a man worship a God that he himself created? It's senseless. It's senseless. Would not common sense dictate that the man would be more powerful than the God he created? Yeah. Okay. The idol's not going to create itself, so it can't be a God. Or better, that he who created the idol is the God of the idol? Hello. That's what makes sense. There must be something beyond the idol that is the root cause of what people worship as idols, and that is this. Idols made and trusted in are done as open rebellion against true living God. That's it. Plain old unbelief. That's it. Keep it as simple as you can, and you'll see it for what it is. It is an excuse to claim a belief in some deity, yet to maintain one's continued covetous behavior. That's clearly what it is. So sense and logic are gone, clean gone away from the idolater. Okay. God will blind the person to their true spiritual condition. Okay. If they want to be an idolater, God will blind their minds, their hearts, everything about them. They won't be able to see it at all. In fact, the more tragic than the blindness that comes from idolatry is the blindness that comes from the judgment when people are idolaters. They're blinded themselves. They can't see. They choose blindness. They choose to be blind. And God accommodates them. And this truth is seen over and over and over again throughout all the entire Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, all throughout the Word of God. God judged his own professed people for idolatry because it is an affront to him. It is the ultimate insult to God that he who created all things, and by him all things hold together, would be exchanged for his creation and then worship this God. It's senseless. Totally and completely senseless. That's what it is. I'm just going to read Jeremiah chapter 10, 1 through 10, because again, this is where the whole issue of context has just been on vacation pretty much forever. Hear ye the word of which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. He's talking to Israel. Is that correct? Okay. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. So we know contextually, God's talking to the nation of Israel. He's talking to Israel. What does he say? Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. This is all idolatry again. For the heathen are dismayed at them. This is all idolatry. People worship the signs, they worship stars, they worship the moon, they worship whatever. For the customs of the people are they're nothing. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with an axe. And they deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree. And that, my friends, is the picture of the Christmas tree. Sorry, wrong. I've heard so many people say that. Might have believed it for 5 seconds myself when I was dumb in the faith. But I kept reading like, that doesn't make any sense. So the first question should come to mind is, before that, if you've been listening, it should be right there. Close. Keep going. We're talking to Israel. We're not talking to Santa or anybody else. Okay? He wants them not to learn the ways of the heathen. Don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed. The customs of the people are vain. And you cut a tree from the forest, works of the hands, working with the axe, deck it with silver. Can't you see that? Pastor Harley, are you blind? Are you not idolater? Can't you see how we be decking her? Okay, let's keep reading. They deck it with silver, with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it will say they actually make the tree where it's like they put a little mound, or they may put little crosses or something under the tree that it can't move. That's what that. Okay. They are upright as the palm tree. Does it say it was a palm tree that was used? No. That's another thing. It didn't say anything about it being, because some people use palm trees for Christmas trees, especially here in California. Yeah, that's right. California. Seen it myself. We're like, really? In fact, next time, God willing, that we deal with this Christmas nonsense, just go around some of these streets and look at the decorations, the lights up they put on palm trees. Yep, they do it. They are upright as a palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. In other words, you gotta put a mount under them because they can't move. Be not afraid of them. They cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. They can't do anything. They can't do evil to you, nor can they do good. It's a stupid tree. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? It's the same thing said in the book of Revelation. For to thee doth it appertain, for as much as among all the wise men of the nations, and in all their kingdoms, there is none like unto thee. Even Nebuchadnezzar said the same thing. But they are altogether brutish, or stupid, and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities. So all their worshiping of idols, and they themselves are stupid, foolish, and a doctrine or a people of nothingness. They're vain. Silver spreads into places brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz, the work of the workman, and the hands of the founder. Blue and purple is their clothing. They're all the work of cunning men. But the Lord is the true God. He is a living God and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. There you go. It's not talking about any Christmas tree, because there was no Christmas at the time that passage is written. And you can't take that and make it say something that the origin never said. Hello. You can't do that. You can't do that. I'm not sorry, but you're wrong. And it's okay to be wrong if you get corrected and receive it when it comes to pass that you're wrong. It's not a Christmas tree. There was no Christmas. There was no Christmas at all. This is, we're talking hundreds of years before the event of the coming of Christ came, and that's not Christmas. All that is just a Catholic holiday. That's all. Y'all need to stop playing the playpen and grow up. Stop being a big bunch of babies. You want your stuff. No. Here you take a day, you dedicate to the Lord's coming, and you just gorge yourself on goodies and stuff and cars with ribbons. And I want my stuff. And then you gorge yourself all big and fat, leaning all the way back in your chair till you fall down on your big fat head, eating all your food and taking 4 or 5 plates home. And then and that's all you want. You use Christ to your covetousness, and nobody could tell you any different. I just did. Bye.